Okay. So our second lecture, this is our first actual career theory. Parsons came up with one, but it was a very, it wasn't really detailed, even though the broad concept was traits, and we're going to hear that in a lot of our other theories that we talk about. So our next one is Holland, and his theory is person-environment fit. And so I am going to share my, share my screen, which is basically the notes, just so that, okay. So the two theories that everybody references, the two theories that will most assuredly be on your exams are Holland and super, okay? But I do include all the primary theories in section 1 of your book. Now let me give you an idea of why it's so difficult to memorize the career theorists. It's not like the theories we learn in counseling theories class. They're all very similar, you know, and your job is going to be, how do I differentiate one theory from another based on what they give me, okay? So what it's going to be is, it'll either be, they'll give you the theorist's name and you'll have A, B, C, D, and they'll draw things from each of the theories, or more than likely, they'll give you something like, on these notes here, we have 4 basic assumptions, all right? And they'll list the 4 basic assumptions. And then it'll be A, B, C, D, and it'll be Holland, super, Krumboltz, and one other one. And you're going to have to pick which theorist came up with this. And that's not that easy unless you memorize each theory, okay? So what I did was, the chapter in your book goes into detail about every aspect of the theory. I think in edition 3, we're already editing this and trying to make it a little better. We'll probably separate Holland and super into 2 separate chapters. Right now they're in 1 chapter in your book. The person who wrote that chapter is a career counselor, and he always uses them together, which most career counselors do. But that doesn't make it easy for you to memorize as a student when you're taking these exams. So we're probably going to separate that chapter into 1 chapter for Holland and 1 chapter for super. But I separated it for you in the notes, okay? So it's less confusing for you. Okay, so when we think about the person and the environment, we're thinking about personality and traits. So he developed the Vocational Preference Inventory, the VPI, 1953. So when we think about this, so World War II was over in 1946, people were all coming home. 1947, one of the interesting things that happened in World War II, if you think about it, there were females in the military. However, the vast majority was males, and all of those males went off to war, and females took on their roles in the factories and in the manufacturing of the war effort. And one of the things they realized was, I can do this too. You know, you remember seeing like the posters of Rosie the Riveter and things like that. And that was a huge change in our society, whereas women used to be kind of delegated to very specific careers. Now they're doing careers that it was thought only men could do. Okay, so everything from mechanics to construction to anything. And so when males came back, the women realized, hey, I can do these careers too. The second thing that was happening was, you know, everybody got married when they came back. Not everybody, but you know, people in relationships, hey, I'm back from the war, let's get married, let's have a family. And there was this whole concept of the American dream, okay? And just to simplify the American dream, people wanted to have a family, have a small house and a car, and have a career that could help them to afford those things. Before that, most people did not own a house unless they were in a farming community. So that was a huge change. The next thing was that women decided whether they wanted to stay at home with the family, or many of them decided to work. And this was a huge influx of females into the workforce. There were also a lot of people who were killed in the war, and females became the sole providers for the families. And they went out and found jobs as well, if they didn't already have one. So a lot of big changes in the 50s. And then, of course, because of all these marriages, they began the baby boom. So the largest increase in our population that was not a result of migration or immigration. And that bubble is basically just ending now. And our population and birth rate is either leveling out or declining at this point. So a lot more people, a lot more families, and it was seen as a prosperous age. So his theory seeks to understand individual differences in personality types. The other thing that was happening was people had a lot more skills coming back from the military. They had been trained to do certain things, and some of those things were applicable to civilian jobs. Other things weren't so applicable to civilian jobs, but there was a transition from working in the military environment to working in the civilian environment. We have an entire chapter, one chapter that talks about helping people move from basically high school into a military career, and another chapter about how to transition individuals from military to civilian careers. So one of the things he started to look at was personality types. So you're going to see two assessments that look at personality types. One is Holland's, and the other one is called the 16 personality type inventory. They call it the 16 personality type inventory because it's kind of a knockoff of Myers-Briggs type inventory. But you're going to take both, okay? So you're going to have, in your assessments, you're going to have a Holland's assessment, and you're going to have a 16 personality type assessment, which is like Myers-Briggs. So he started with 4 basic assumptions. And the first assumption is humans fall into one of 6 basic types of personalities. And it's a little confusing because it automatically put A, B, C, D, E, F. Ignore the letters in your notes. What you want to do is you want to look at the first letter of each personality type. So Ryasac or Riasac or however you want to pronounce that, if you memorize RIASEC, you'll know all of the personality types. So R stands for realistic, and I stands for investigative. A stands for artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. Now, here's the lucky thing. Yes, humans fall into 6 basic personality types. He thinks that careers also have the same 6. So you don't have to memorize 6 different ones. It's the same 6 personality types, okay? Now, the thing is, his goal is to match up the individual personality type with the career personality type. He thinks the closer we get to matching up those personality types or traits, the happier the person will be and the more successful they'll be in their career. Okay, and the third basic assumption is people search for environments suited to their abilities and people look for a good fit. So personality type or a good fit in the personality type equals a positive career. And the fourth assumption, person's behaviors and emotions determined by interaction between their personality and their environment. Okay, example, an artistic person, are they in an artistic environment or are they in a very rigid environment? They'll be a great worker. In a conventional setting, however, he or she would be unhappy and would be a poor worker. Okay, so this, I wrote out each personality type, okay? So this describes, okay, a realistic personality type or an investigative or an artistic. Most of these are kind of self-explanatory, but read, I'm not gonna sit here and read each paragraph to you. So, but you'll get the idea, all right? Social, enterprising, conventional, okay? And it's the same thing. I didn't repeat it. One is for people and one is for careers. So he just kind of rewords each one. How does this fit a career? How does this fit a person? What's this look like in a person? What's this look like in a career setting? Okay. All right. Ooh, I want to see that. Okay. So hopefully in your notes, there's a hexagon model here, but I'm going to find it for you. There's a better one online anyway. This is famous. It's also in the book. Let's figure out one I like. I like that one. Okay, so let's just, this is his hexagonal model, all right? Now, you can see the letters. So these are the letters you're gonna memorize for each career. So R-I-A-S-E-C. So R stands for realistic. I, investigative. You see how that works. A, artistic, all right? But he put the letters here and he put the whole word out here for the kind of personality type. All right, so what happens if I click on it? Oh, good. All right, so in here, he describes briefly what each personality type is, but let's say you might score high on social, okay? Helpers, people who like to help people, to inform, enlighten, teach, train, develop, cure them, skilled with words, concerned with the welfare of others, and compassionate, okay? That might fit some of you as counselors, all right? Now, Holland would say that this might be your primary score, your high score, but he's hoping that your next highest scores would be enterprising and artistic, okay? So usually, if you score high in one, you'll still do okay in a career that's next to it. So you would probably be looking at all three of these. You would be okay in a career that contained those, any of those. And you can do this any way you want. What he would also say is if you scored high in social, you would probably not do well in the opposite end of the hexagon. So that's kind of the opposite personality, okay? Or if you skipped one, okay? Now, this doesn't always work. Let me give you an example. So I scored high in helper, persuader, and creator, but I also scored high in investigative. And you can talk with your clients, wonder why they scored high in investigative. Well, I kind of see people's minds as like this puzzle that I need to help them solve and figure out. Like if I'm figuring out what a diagnosis is, that's kind of an investigative procedure, okay? So this is not perfect. People might score, they might skip one, okay? So the trick with that is, I wonder why you scored high in that. Let's talk about it. What are some of the things you like in this? Would that apply to a helping career as well? How do you think that would fit? Or they might say, nope, that's not me, and it's an anomaly. That's okay. It's no big deal. You know, go with what you have, and if something doesn't fit, go with the other things. I put the client in control of what they choose here. They know themselves better than anybody else. Now, when you look here, it's only 6 categories, and then the same 6 categories for career. What you'll really find is that when you combine these results with the 16 personality types and you figure out which ones kind of go together, you'll get a really comprehensive view of their personality type, because you'll have 2 different ways to look at their personality. So you'll basically have 2 different measurements for their personality. All right, so this is also in your book, and it should be in the notes that are online. I'm not sure why it doesn't show up on here, but it's okay. Okay, so this talks a little bit more specifically about the hexagonal model. And so like, let's say you're talking with your client about this. I would actually show them a picture of the model. And I'd say, look, this one is your high score, and let's look at what's beside it, and let's look what might not be a good fit. And if you scored high across, across the model, I wonder why you scored that. Let's process that. So what we want you to do is apply these theories to their results and talk about it with the client. Okay, the closer 2 personality type points are on the hexagon, the better fit. Although a realistic person would excel in a realistic setting, he or she probably still do well in conventional or investigative because they're near it. Congruence, being yourself. So when you're in theories class, you're going to learn about congruence and incongruence in Carl Rogers, person-centered. And that's what he means by congruence, being yourself, not wearing a mask, being genuine. If a person says, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer because I think they might make a lot of money or whatever the stereotype might be, but it's not a good fit for their personality, they're probably not going to be happy. Incongruent, acting or feeling different than what you are. And I just put these vocab words here because they're primary vocabulary words for this theory. Differentiation, the degree of distinctness among types as differentiation. Fits one but not the other. Consistency, a degree of relatedness within types. How are they alike? You can have synchronization between these. The closer on the hexagon, the more things they have in common, the more consistent they are. Identity, stability and clarity between current and stated goals, congruent. All right. Okay, so I want to stop our recording and then we'll discuss this.